Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we be go back in time because we heard on the grapevine that Evil Dead Rising just got released, and we thought we might take a trip back to the 1980s where it all started.
1981 to be precise.
Yeah, so we've gone back and to review the popular cult classic.
Is it a cult classic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anything that's 80s or 90s can be a cult classic.
Okay.
So this movies are called The Evil Dead.
Or they've been referred to as Army of Darkness too, haven't they?
Well, that only comes much later, Mike, when they did the sequel.
Excuse me. Oh,
and
that's
do
right.
not burp in front of the audience.
Sorry. It's Evil Dead later also referred to as Army of Darkness.
Much later.
Later referred to as, okay? Didn't
Only
say
because it was...
not on release is it referred to as. Okay?
Anyway, it's always called The Evil Dead, therefore that's what it's called forever.
Evil Dead people. Okay, right.
Anyway, so we're going to review the old franchise, obviously.
And then touch on some of the other ones.
Yes, like the TV series and it's the remakes. I'm not going to review those ones as of yet. Maybe in the near future, who knows? I have no intentional plans of reviewing those as of yet. So bear with me, folks. We will touch on these types of things as we go along. So let's get into this, Mike.
I'll do my normal stuff. Oh, Lord, I'm boring. No, okay, here we are.
No, it's not boring.
Produced by Robert Tappert, T-A-P-E-R-T. Now, written by Sam Raimi and directed by Sam Raimi. And Sam Raimi made a tea and coffee. And he made sandwiches. No.
Well, just so you guys know, this is not... I mean, before Evil Dead, he actually made another movie that was that would have been the inspiration for Evil Dead years before.
What was it called, Sarah?
Within the Woods. And this was released in 1978. And it was sort of a promotional short film, which he used as a bit of a... as a double feature in a cinema when they were doing Rocky Horror Picture Show, as a way of getting people to take a notice of his creativity.
So he did a short to put in there, and
yes.
that was on the Super 8 or something, wasn't it?
Not that. Well, maybe that one, but the other one before was the Super 8 one.
Yeah.
But I don't know what camera they used. I think at the time, both him and Bruce was involved in this production too, along with another actress who's, listen to me, her name is Ellen, what's her name?
Yeah, right. Sandal Case.
Yeah.
Really? I can't read your handwriting.
Okay, we'll call her Ellen. So you guys look her up.
Nice lady.
And so he actually assigned roles for them to play in that movie. And so you guys know...
Sandweiss. Yeah,
Sandweiss.
Got an extra letter in there.
Yes. Both Ellen and Bruce, they were both within the woods, and it's sort of similar to Evil Dead. And so I think that at the time, Bruce was probably been about 20 years of age when he did that movie.
Well, you're telling the story.
And the movie before that he did with Sam Raimi was when he was 19.
And the younger, he'd be in primary school.
At this time, I think that both Sam Raimi and him may have met in university and worked on together on film projects there. So this is probably their first studio. That was probably their first studio film. And then after getting investors, like what you said, Mike, they then decided to move forward with Evil Dead. They had to get some investors, obviously.
It does help.
It usually helps. Anyway, let's get stuck into this again.
I'll do my usual bits. Now, this one was done on a skinny budget.
Yes, a shoestring budget.
2.7 million.
At least it's not as bad as the first one in the short film.
No, sorry. No, let's try again. Budget was 375,000. No. Was really, really good.
Yeah,
really
compared to the other one that was the short film, it was actually $1,800. when he
Whatever,
did Within the
sure,
Woods.
You know, that's you hire a tree. That's about it. Now, box office, I don't know what it was because it says 2.7 million or 29.4 million.
Okay.
So I don't know. All I can say is even at 2.7 million made some money. If it made 29 million, it made a lot of money for its outlay. So However, what else? I can't think of anything else I want to say about it. You might as well get into having your chat because it's going to be a long one.
Yes, that's true. So you guys know Bruce is in all of them. So he becomes a...
Oh, I didn't mention stars, did I?
No, you didn't.
Silly me. You've been mentioning everybody else and,
Bruce
and the car park attendant and everybody
Bruce
else.
has made a big name for him in Evil Dead. And to this day, he's practically the icon in Evil Dead.
He's a poster boy for Evil Dead.
He's the poster boy for this sort of thing.
Now, here, Bruce Campbell plays Ash Williams.
Or Ashley in the first movie.
Oh, Ashley. Well, hey, he might have been in Gone with the Wind as well. No. Anyway, Ellen Sandweiss,
Who cares?
plays Cheryl Williams. Richard Domanicourt plays...
Scott.
Plays Scott. He might have been listed on the credits as Hal Delrich.
Got it.
That might have had another name. Betsy Baker plays Linda. Teresa Tilley, listed as Sarah York, plays Shelley. There's some uncredited people in there, which I'll happen to mention here because it's rather interesting. Because Sam Raimi plays a local fisherman and the voice of the Evil Dead.
Yeah, he says join us. We
will rock you. No, whatever.
No.
Now, Robert Tappert, the producer, he actually plays the local fisherman.
Oh, so actually there was 3 fishermen, I think. I wasn't sure how many.
As a local fisherman, okay. Okay. And a guy called Bob Dorian...
Who plays a local fisherman too?
No rings a bell. As Professor Noby's voice. You on a tape recorder?
Yeah.
But his voice sounds familiar. He
Yeah.
reminds you of somebody.
Yeah, his voice was very creepy in the movie.
Well,
It's a tape recorder thing.
Now, do you want to tell a story?
Yeah, well...
Once upon a time, there was 3 bears.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Anyway, so you guys know, when this came out, Sam Raimi, he was called into court regarding this production because it was so graphically, gross. And I guess at the time, people were sensitive to what could be coming out of the theatres, and some people may not like it too much. So I don't know what their reaction back then was, but
wasn't a bit bloody and stuff.
It was bloody, Mike, and graphic, and a bit, what's the word? Not provocative. Something worse than. Just something that you would not see in movies before this. Anyway, and a lot of people have been questioning about this. I mean, before these types of movies, people were trying to make sure that they continue to be censored. Keep them from being too disgusting. But you cannot keep the disgusting out of the media. So I might as well go into this movie.
Well, things have changed over the decades, haven't they?
Yeah, well, before this, Mike, people censored everything, even the killing murder scenes in horror movies.
Well, you remember in Psycho, they had trouble getting the toilet scene. Yeah?
Exactly, and the shower scene.
Why do you need to show a toilet?
Beats the heck out of me.
She flushed something down. It was relative to the storyline. So, but everyone knows you go to the toilet several times a day. Everyone knows they exist, but you can't show them in a film. Well, back in those days, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you could show a bath, but you cannot show a toilet. Don't know why. Don't ask me how. Anyway, so I'll get into the story. We then open to the credits, which I think should have been like the title card in the trailer, to be honest. It looks more creepier and sinister when you think about it.
Yeah, it was a bit...
It looks very independent filmmaker style, does not really have anything gory about it. Anyway, we see a POV shot of something moving in through the woods. Then we soon arrive to our, about 5 individuals who are heading to a cabin in the woods.
Yes.
For a fun weekend.
Fun weekend in the woods like all the other movies.
Yeah, they bought this cheap, shoddy cabin cheaply.
Rent,
hire,
they never tell us, we got this place, we're really good.
Yeah.
But
in other versions, they either stumble across the cabin because it's raining and decide to stay the night, yada yada. The story continues to change here and there, and change the other actors in the production here and there because of either they couldn't repeat the same scene again, or the fact the actors may not want to be re-seen again. I don't know, or maybe they just
maybe they got killed.
Well, it's just like when they did flashbacks to see episode 1, 2, and 3, you didn't see those other characters again, do you?
No, they got killed.
They kept replacing with the other actors. So anyway, so they drive through the woods. Something's following them, and we see the 3 fishermen waving them after they got honked, even though they said, "We're not honking at you," and all this stuff.
Honk.
Rude much. Anyway, Sky's really rude when you think about this movie. They soon arrive at the cabin, and it's a very shoddy-looking cabin.
Hey, it doesn't look too bad to me. I'll live there.
Yeah.
I'll stay there for a holiday.
Yeah, it gets really... They soon unload their car. You see, they go exploring the cabin, or Scott does, and we see a woodshed and some nice rooms. And not a working clock here and there. That doesn't seem to be working really well.
They always seem to be stuck on a particular time, were they? I didn't notice. They just were sitting there going, hello. Yeah.
Later that night falls really quickly in this movie.
Plunk. There.
And we watch as one of the girls, I think it's either Linda or was it Shelley?
Cheryl.
Is in a room drawing a picture of the clock. She's probably an art student, who knows? And somehow the clock stops very weirdly. And then she starts automatic writing a picture on a piece of paper of a book or something. We don't know what it is. And she's spooked by this. And then she hears something eerie in the woods, a weird voice or weird sounds coming from the woods. She doesn't investigate further, so she...
In her pajamas, mind you.
Yeah. She goes to her friends, they're eating dinner, and as they're eating dinner, making a toast to Bruce's late teacher, who's into Latin, but doesn't remember the Latin words. And then suddenly the basement door in the other room opens.
It's a trap door in the ground,
Yeah.
In the floor.
So you guys know this is not a real trap door.
No,
It's not a real basement because actually they had to dig it to make it look like it wouldn't probably be that deep. It would just have.
It was a hole in the floor made to look like a basement,
Yeah.
but then they did a basement scene somewhere else.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
They then so Scott heads in there first. And then Bruce follows him afterwards. Of course, we get a jump scare, and they find some stuff down there, a tape recorder, and a book, and a bizarre knife with a really bizarre hilt.
You don't have a skull on or something?
Yeah, really bizarre hilt. So they take their treasures upstairs, and as they're taking them upstairs, they start playing the video, the tape.
Recorder. Yeah, the old reel tape recorder. It was a long time
then we
ago.
hear
I had one of those.
the narration from the professor going on about how he found this book in a sort of tomb of sorts, and it deals with deadites and resurrecting the dead, stuff like that, and a lot of creepy demonic stuff out in it. So you guys know, Sam Raimi was into stories from H.P. Lovecraft, and he kind of got inspired by Lovecraft's stories to create this movie.
Be? Yeah.
So, anyway, as the tape recorder plays on, we hear him say the Latin words or whatever the words he got from the book, and then the girl Cheryl starts yelling to tell him to turn the thingy-wingy off. Of course, it's freaking her out, and so they stop the tape, and eventually, Ash, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting his name's Ash in this movie. he gives his girlfriend a small magnifying necklace.
Yeah, see, it's a nice little magnifying glass. You know, I don't know what it symbolises. It looks pretty.
It's cute. That's all I can say about it.
Maybe it's so she got it in case she gets the engagement ring later on. She uses a magnifying glass to look at the ring. Of course, the diamond's so small.
Or the fact it may not be the real one, real thing. Anyway, so they end up kissing, and we see outside the thing in the woods is prowling them. Of course, he sees them and doesn't realize. He realizes that they're not alone, so he goes to Cheryl's room, who's still up and awake and still looking at the sketch she drawed from previously, which looks like the same as the book that the Scott and Ash discovered. Soon enough, she hears the things in the woods. She goes outside, which is the most stupidest thing you could have done in a movie, which doesn't not matter. I mean,
They always
every
go
time
outside.
in these movies you see someone go outside and they end up getting hurt. She goes into the woods and she starts calling out to this invisible being or person who is making weird noises. I should mention Sam Raimi is the one who's doing the moaning and groaning in this movie. You can't. Well, if you can do it,
I know
you can
what's
do it.
main grounds. Look at the budget.
Yeah. So anyway, Sam Raimi is pretty good at doubling up or tripling up roles in this. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced actor, as long as you can do the job, then you're a professional in the field. So anyway, Shelley goes into the woods, and soon enough she gets attacked by the woods themselves.
Yeah, the trees and vines start moving.
Yeah, they start twirling around her legs, arms, and tearing at her dressing
Clothes.
gown.
Now, why would a vine...
soon enough, we see one branch about to pelt her you-know-what. I'm not going to go into details.
Yeah, her
All I
forest of
know,
feelings.
according to Wikipedia, they would describe this as a bit of a rape situation.
Yes, it was, yes.
Anyway, I don't want to go into details because it's disgusting. She eventually gets under the vines and quickly runs through the woods. We see point of view shots throughout this movie. We don't see the
we
monster.
don't see what's chasing her.
I think this is the best approach Sam Raimi could do for this scene. When you think about it,
it's cheaper than getting
because,
makeup on.
well, that's the thing, Mike. I mean, as long as you don't see the monster, you don't need to. You don't. The audience doesn't need to see the monster in this movie.
Just perceive to have a monster there.
Just to watch the actors' impressions of what they're seeing for us.
There is a monster there. There you go.
Anyway, she runs until she gets back to the cabin. She stumbles with the key, but eventually Ash appears and they pulls her inside. She mumbles and cringes and tries to explain what she saw or seen, but it's difficult to explain, and she wants to up and leave the cabin because she doesn't want to stay there.
And everyone thinks she's overreacting. Thought,
All
she's
of
having
them
a
say,
dream or something. Or,
yeah, all except her want to leave. Well, not all. I mean, all of them don't want to leave. So Ash takes the keys from his car and takes Shelley out to the car. And he starts it up, and it doesn't go really well.
Yeah, he had a lot of trouble staying, so he thought, oh no, they're not going to let us leave. And all of a sudden it burst into life. Yeah.
Eventually bursts into life. We drive until we get to the bridge. I should have mentioned earlier the bridge was acting a bit funny.
I think when they were coming there, it had a sign saying at the bridge, something along the fat line that the bridge was in a bad state of repair. Use at your own risk.
Yeah, we see that part of the bridge is kind of broken apart, and we see it sort of bending into a claw-shaped hand.
Yeah, curly. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, we see Shelley crumble and cry, saying no.
Yeah, I hope I'm being paid for this scene. Sorry,
And eventually they return to the cabin, where the Ash is still listening to the video using, the tape recorder using his earphones, and both his girlfriend and her friend are actually reading cards to see if they're telepathic. And eventually Shelley read several of them correctly. And she turns, and we see she's transformed into a deadite.
Yes.
And she screams, saying, "You're not gonna leave this cabin alive." Sort of sings. Eventually, the boys try to fight her off as best they could. They think that there's something wrong with her, of course, and she then stabs.
Pretty clear, yeah,
I think
obviously,
it's
yeah.
one of the girls in the ankle. I don't know which one. I think it was actually his girlfriend. I think which one, Linda or Shelley?
Oh, whatever. I can't remember. I'm getting too old. Alzheimer's.
She gets stabbed in her ankle, and of course, the guys throw Shelley into the basement and quickly lock it up. Of course.
Exactly.
And
As one would.
she continues to rant and rave and cringe dialogue.
And she gets uglier and uglier, doesn't she?
Yeah, very black and blue, or purpley blue, or whatever colors you're looking at.
Decayed and scraggly hair and.
Yeah, even though she's not really that old. Yeah.
Being in the film industry does age you, honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, they can't work out what's wrong with her. So anyway, Ash puts his girlfriend to bed and to get out of her wound. And Scott and his girlfriend, they try to work out what's going on. Of course, she gets attacked again by the woods and transforms into a deadeye too. And soon enough, Ash and Scott fight her off, and Scott takes the axe and stabs, or not stab. I mean, he actually thrusts his the axe into her head, killing her, and her limbs are still shaking or wibbling or goggling, whatever.
Stuff.
It doesn't make sense. And they drag her little dead limbs and throw them into a grave. Obviously, it's disgusting. Anyway, the Shelley continues laughing or cackling. At this point, Scott wants to leave. He tells Ash that he plans on leaving. Ash can do what he wants with his girlfriend, because we know his girlfriend is a dead girl walking at this point, because she's already been injured. So Scott leaves Ash alone while he goes off into the woods, and Ash remains, and he sees on his girlfriend's ankle has somehow start getting infected by
badly, really quickly.
Yeah, quickly in a stop motion kind of way.
Swiggly, it's going there.
Yeah, she starts looking like a very crisp, like looking at a porcelain doll, creepy doll looking face when you look at her. She looks so creepy. Yeah, and she starts cackling and yeah, of course.
Doesn't say anything. Just
when
laughs.
He tries to kill her, she transforms back into her cute self again, and his sister, who's Shelley, who transforms back and says that they want to go, all this stuff. But of course, I should mention, Scott reappears at this point and says he was attacked by the woods, and he found a path leading up to out of the woods, of course. But he couldn't get to it because he was. The woods kind of attacked him off screen, so you guys know. Yeah. Anyway, he's a dead man walking too. So anyway, Ash thinks that it's going to be an hour away till morning, so he thinks that he'll try to get them out of there. But again, he's the only living person left. I think his brain is slowly snapping and losing its rubber band when you think about the scene.
Exactly. He
encounters some weird stuff in this scene, and he then decides to try to kill his girlfriend. Of course, he takes her body away and chains her down into the woodshed and tries to kill her, but he doesn't have the guts to do it. He looks at the magnifying glass that he gave her and thought, no, I don't think I have the guts to do this. He then drags her body and he starts digging her grave without even decapitating her or anything like that, because in the tape recorder, it says the only way to destroy the demon or something like that is decapitation and other bits and cutting the bits up. I don't know if that works anyway, because technically the other girl in this movie, she was still, her body limbs were still moving at this point. Wouldn't you say, Mike? But then again, if you cut off her head and cut off her limbs, they won't be
still wiggle a bit,
and they won't do very much at this point. So technically, they will not attack you. So burying them in the ground would not get them a chance to get out.
They can swear at you, put dirt in them, that's about it. Yeah.
Anyway, so he starts burying his girlfriend up to her up, but eventually she doesn't stay dead, of course. Well, I don't think she is. Anyway. So we still are left with two other deadites in the house. His friend Scott, who's now dead, completely dead at this point, and Shelley, who's still in the basement. Of course, Scott helps her out of the basement and was able to starts hiding in the woods. Of course, Ash takes his gun. He has a gun, and he starts roaming around the house trying to find them. And At first, they do appear at the door. She does appear at the door, but he shoots again. And of course, he starts losing his mind because he starts seeing weird things like the clock acting funny, the mirror acting funny, like and stuff like that. It's creepy, most of the stuff. Anyway, soon enough, Scott's body rises and starts attacking Ash. Of course, in his haste, the book, I should mention, it starts burning and starts affecting the deadites, physically. And I think this is where Ash realizes the book is tied in with the deadites, coming to life. So he tries to grab for it, but he gets pulled back by the deadites who are planning on killing Ash, obviously, and eventually he uses his girlfriend's necklace as a bit of an anchor to pull the book closer to him, and when he gets in hand's reach, he throws the book into the fire, where it starts turning stop motion-y. It starts looking really creepy looking. It starts poking faces at the audience, and soon enough, both Shelley and Scott start getting affected by slowly dying, and their bodies start getting stop motion-y. It's really creepy and gross. And soon enough, their bodies start decaying and burning, and the voices from the deadites soon die out, obviously.
And everything's nice and quiet.
And by the next morning, we see the sun rising overhead, and Ash is slowly emerging from the house, and we think things are all good, but then we see something coming out of the woods and then rushing towards the house and coming and springing on Ash. Then we cut to the credits.
I was going to say he's being chased by the DOP of a camera. No.
Actually, yeah, you're not wrong there, Mike. I mean, the DOP was actually on a bike, and his camera is attached to the bike itself. So that was a kind of a really creative shot.
They did some really weird stuff in there. They're on a skinny budget, so they had to make do with different things. And
as I said before, when they did the short film I mentioned to you guys that was based for this one, that one had a very smallest budget compared to this one. That one was like $1,800 compared to this one. That was a much smaller budget. So this one, they actually did a really better job at doing this movie. They got some really good camera gear, and it's still to this day a very creepy movie to watch. And I do feel bad for Sam Raimi having to be called into court because of some stupid technicality over it being too gory for them to handle. Even though I imagine the reception may have been a mixture of good or bad reviews when you think about this movie, right, Mike? So anyway, as the story continues, there's a sequel. Obviously, there's two movies that came out of this, both done by Sam Raimi and his brother, obviously Ivan Raimi, I think his name is, who assisted as a bit of
could be.
He sort of assists him in the third script for the third movie, I think.
But I saw his name written somewhere else before.
He also assists as I think Sam Raimi also assists as the executive producer in charge. So you guys know the executive producer in charge has the final say on what to do about the script. See, Mike?
There you go then. Final say. Yeah.
Final say, meaning he can work through this project on his own. He can do it with his hands down.
Yeah, so it's good to have an exec who can oversee the project. Say that's working. I don't like the way it's going there, and make it nice.
Yeah. The second movie that came out, I think it was done in 1997. It's like 6 years after this movie, I think, and
probably.
I think Sam Raimi was trying to tone it down, try to make it more comedy horror, appeal to the...
Here we go.
To help.
This one was done in 81, and the second one was done in 87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, he wanted to tone the horror down as much as you could for the senses, but still, even if he didn't make the dad's blood red, it still got him into big trouble, obviously, when you think about it. I don't know why.
Why not?
And so in that one, obviously, I'm glossing over it, is the continuation of from where we left off. Even though they changed the story, they made it out that Ash and his girlfriend went to the cabin, and there they find the recording and the knife and the creepy book, and then all the same stuff. We soon see the same scenes in that movie where he kills her and buries her body, and then she starts hallucinating and stuff, and so we see the Deadite approaching him in the woods, and he kind of pulls him into the woods and starts attacking him, and somehow he turns into a Deadite. But then he somehow turns back into a human.
Yeah, back and forwards a couple of times during the show. Yeah.
Of course, his hand somehow gets the Deadites, a bit
of control,
curse. But so he ends up cutting his hand off to avoid the curse affecting the rest of him. So he did that, sort of an amputation. That's the word. Isn't that the right word, Mike?
Yep. He cut it off with a chainsaw, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And we then meet the professor's daughter and her boyfriend, who came into the woods because their father was working on the
naughty books.
the Deadites, the book, obviously, the Book of the Dead or whatever.
Necromonicon or whatever, yeah.
I'm going to call it the Book of the Dead because that's what it was called originally.
They refer to it,
Yeah. Anyway, she's come there because she's found some other...
Sumerian Book of the Dead.
And she's found some other pages that belong to the Book of the Dead that were probably misplaced or stuff like that. Anyway, she comes there expecting her parents, but they're dead. And she thinks Ash did it, but we soon realize that from the tape, if we listen to more of the tape, we find out that the professor couldn't kill his wife, so he buried her in the
cellar.
Cellar. He didn't.
What a convenient place.
Although we don't know what happens to him. Obviously, I think he was killed off screen. We don't know that. We don't know what becomes of him.
He becomes a ghost later on, doesn't he?
We do see him as a ghost. We don't even know how he avoided becoming a Deadite in that. But considering everyone
they killed him.
Well, that's the thing, Mike. Considering everyone who gets touched by death somehow rise up and becomes a Deadite.
I know, I'm saying, but I'm just wondering whether it's got something to do with, you know how in the zombie movies where they get infected somehow or other?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering whether something like that, they've got to be, and saying vampires, they actually got to turn the victim. So maybe the Deadites need to turn their victims a bit, maybe somewhere along the line when they're attacking them. I don't know.
Maybe.
But he didn't. Daddy died, obviously.
Considering, that could
unless
be
he was a Deadite.
That's a good point.
But he got killed anyway.
Yeah, true. Or maybe he fought just like Ash did, and somehow, to avoid getting himself completely turned into a Deadite, he actually took his life. Who knows? Maybe either fire or or just
blew his head off.
or blew his
yeah,
head off.
Something really nice. And,
That's my only explanation. I can't really give you a body account of how he may have passed away because there's no body to be had, and there's no knowing where he went to. Anyway, so it doesn't matter. So anyway, Ash and the daughter they work out how to banish the demons using the leftover pages, and we're able to call forth the evil in its form, and it transforms into this giant demented tree. Yeah, that's the best word.
Yeah, look like trees.
And they use the rest of the notes to get the both the demented tree and Ash and the house and his car into a portal.
Yeah, sucked into something or other. Yeah.
Which makes me think, if this is part of the ritual getting rid of the demons, I think we should recheck the book again.
Well, they might have said something wrong,
Considering we just burnt the book in the first movie, so we don't know.
They had a few pages left over. It's always going to be handy.
Yes. So anyway, they get sucked into the portal, and soon enough, Ash and his car arrive at an unknown destination, and we find we're in the past.
They fall out of the sky. Yeah.
We find they're in the past, like back to the Dark Ages.
Yeah, like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table period. Yeah. In England, mind you.
As I said, back in the Dark Ages, when people didn't...
Yeah, no television.
Yeah, and the Crusades, stuff like that. Yeah. Everyone was fighting against one another. Anyway, so he eventually attacks the Deadite in their kingdom, and he's praised for being a hero and stuff like that. And then we realize that in this movie, in the sequel, that in those pages that they were reading.
Actually, in the beginning of the movie, there was a sketch of a castle or a fortress, and there was some person's figurine standing in front of it with something on its right hand. Yeah. And we find it later on.
It's Ash.
And he had his hand cut off.
Yeah.
Early on, and he put a chainsaw on the end. We didn't mention this before.
Yeah.
He put a chainsaw on the end of it, using some sort of what do you call it, some metal straps or whatever. So what they saw was him
in the past.
In the past, a little bit like in Timeline, where the guy went back and the bung ear and everything, and well, there you go. Then.
Of course, Ash is starting to scream like Shelley did in the saying no.
Yeah, bugger.
Then we cut to the credits in that one, and then we move on to the final movie where Ash we flash back to the same scene where he gets sucked into the portal, but the scene's changed obviously again in this movie, because throughout this movie we have a few scene differences in here and there.
To start off with, and got to prove his worth and different things.
Yes.
And, yeah.
So, but luckily enough, there's a Merlin figure in this who says that his appearance is sort of predicted by the stars, or gosh knows what.
Yeah, and he saw him in the book, the parchment, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh.
Anyway, he's sort of a promised hero that has to be to help them destroy all the Deadites.
Kill the naughty guys. Yeah.
Anyway, so he's sort of predicted in all this stuff. So anyway, in this one, it mentions that he was a student in university and also worked in Walmart, or like a Kmart.
Well, they know what they are in America. Okay,
yeah,
just move
we don't
on.
have a Walmart. We have a Kmart.
Same sort of thing. Yeah.
And anyway, he impresses the crowd with his fighting. He fought some Deadites in a pit. And so you guys know, he's captured alongside with some other lords
from another
village named Lord Henry, I think his name was, and they're sort of a rival kingdom, and both those kingdoms they have a common enemy, the Deadites. So they are both affected by the same plague, if you will.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. How's that?
Except they don't really feel that way. They think we're still enemies, therefore we should hate each other. I wish it is. Anyway, everyone's impressed with Ash's fighting ability, and he was able to defeat the Deadites in the pit.
Yeah,
and
he
he
does. So good
shows
job.
them his boomstick.
He had a shotgun. Well, it went back in time with him.
Broomstick,
and he had a few
broomstick.
carriages with him.
And he explains to them in a sort of promotional gimmick by saying, this gun comes from Walmart, blah, 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 shop wisely, smart sort of thing.
It's quite funny, rather humorous, yeah.
It's hilarious. Anyway, he allows Henry and his men to go home to their kingdom because they didn't...
Well, yeah, he tells the king there to let them go.
Yeah, King,
He
Lord, Duke,
he
whatever.
doesn't let them go. He tells the king to let them go.
He also gives Lord Arthur a bit of a run for his money by hitting him in the face by saying, "Your shoelace is untied," even though there's no shoelaces
He
in
probably
this
had no
time.
shoelaces back in those days. Yeah.
Anyway, he's praised for his abilities and even loved by like a king, given every privilege and stuff like that. And of course, the Merlin of this time says that the only way to send him back is to get the Book of the Dead to send him back.
Yeah, and it's at the local cemetery. An evil place.
An unholy place.
An unholy place. Yeah.
Anyway, so he has to go there, and before he goes there, he actually develops a special arm that he uses.
He made a mechanical arm.
Yeah.
Because he lost his chainsaw.
Yeah.
Somehow or other.
Yeah.
And he made a mechanical arm, like a bionic hand, if you will. Yes.
Yeah, but long before special technology prosthetics would have come to play in this movie.
And it worked quite well.
Yeah, he says groovy, a famous catchphrase from Bruce.
They must be studying engineering at university.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
think
I can
so.
say.
That's all I can
Very
say.
clever man. Yeah.
And the prince, I think she's a princess or a duchess. I'm not sure. Not too.
Or a pretty lady.
I think her name is Shelley. I think her name's
whatever.
Cheryl. And they develop feelings for each other, like always in these movies.
Yes.
And he then makes his way to the journey across the land to the Deadites' graveyard, where the wizard tells him before he heads into the area to, when he finds the book, say the following words: Klaatu Barada Nikto. And I know what you're thinking. This is from where the earth stood still.
Yeah,
well, you're not.
Blah, 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 yeah.
You're not too wrong there, guys. This
That's
sort of
funny.
that's the sort of thing was also used.
And he couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
So he got there and he did everything right. He got what's that last word?
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
And he coughed it out trying to mumble his words.
Yeah.
And obviously the spell didn't work. And all hell breaks loose, literally.
Yeah. Before we get to that part, he does encounter some weird stuff along the way. Like he when he goes into a pinwheel, I think it was. He actually encounters some creepy stuff in a mirror. Again, we have
the windmill. Yeah.
He sees a mirror, and somehow little teeny weeny versions of himself start attacking him.
He broke the mirror.
Yeah.
And all the pieces. And because he broke the mirror, instead of a big person, one big image of him coming out to fight him, about a dozen little ones came out to fight him. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, anyway, he eventually, one of them dives into his mouth and eventually grows into a life size of himself.
And like Siamese twins, and then they pull apart.
Of course. Yeah. He's all acting weird and stupid. And eventually Ash pulls out his gun and says that, good, bad, I'm the man with the gun.
And he blows his head off. Yeah.
And eventually he takes the bad Ash and he doesn't mind cutting him up. Because in the first movie, he couldn't cut his own girlfriend up. So now he can cut up his own body part up.
Well, there you go then.
So he cuts him up and he throws the dead bits into a hole, and the dead head kept saying nasty things. You'll never get the neck and all.
Blah, 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 blah.
Eventually,
and he said, "You got something in the face," and he threw some dirt in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny.
Then,
the DOP must have been laying in the hole. Yeah.
He must have had a good time. Anyway, soon enough, he makes his way to the graveyard, and where he sees not one, not two, but 3 books of the same book. And
which one is the right one?
they're all the same. All duplicates of the same book.
All at least on the outside.
At least on the outside.
Yeah.
He opens one of the books, and we see a hole that nearly sucks him in.
And it does suck him in, and he has to crawl down the book.
Yeah, and he makes a funny face, like he has to shake a couple times before he gets his face right.
His face is all stretched.
Of course, a lot of people think this is the worst type of special effects out there, but I think it's funny.
It was funny. It was good.
Anyway, the next book bites his hand off.
He had to fight the book off, and then the last one.
He then puts his hand on it and says, Klaatu Barata.
And I couldn't remember the last word.
Couldn't remember the last word.
So he took it anyway.
Yeah, I took a stab at it. And then we hear some moaning, groaning, similar noises. And then we realize, woo, this is bad.
I got a bad feeling about this.
So anyway, he jumps onto his horse and they quickly race out of there. Of course, they get back to the kingdom and we know we're in deep trouble.
And the Merlin type guy said, "Did you say the word?" Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Ish.
No, did you say it properly? Exactly. Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Ish.
And he knew he didn't.
No.
And all he wanted to say the words and send me back to my own time.
Yeah, of course, they all feel disappointed that he's not here to save their kingdom from the Deadites, because he's only kidding. His only goal here in this movie is to get the book and go home. Not caring about their well-being.
He should put his ruby slippers on
and go home.
Click them together and say, "There's no place like home, Toto."
Suddenly, a Deadite flying creature starts to appear and takes the lady all the way to the Deadites' camp, which were rising, and they're mostly skeletons, like Jason the Arcanauts type skeletons.
They're all coming out of the ground, out of the graves. See, the dead were rising out of the graves. So hence, all skeletons.
Along with Evil Ash, which is now his dubbed name in this movie.
Evil Ash.
Where he turns Ash's new love interest into a Deadite. I don't know how.
Or a part Deadite.
Part Deadite, who knows?
So, you're not quite dead, but not quite human still. Yes,
I'm
in the
not
middle.
quite dead yet.
I feel like going for a little walk.
You're not fooling anyone. Anyway, so all the remaining people at the castle are freaking out. Like they want to flee the castle. So there's not very many soldiers left but then Ash steps up and says, "Okay, run. You're going to leave your kingdom and all this stuff, and you're going to let these guys take over and stuff like that." And he says, "I'm tired of running. I'm ready to fight back." And of course, he suggests, while Arthur says, "We have very few men. We don't have enough resources, and we don't know how. We won't be able to. We'll be defeated easily." And then Ash says, "Then we'll get Henry's men to assist them. They probably have as many men as them, and more." Anyway, he then says that they'll be able to defeat it. And so he uses his modern knowledge of the future to help them. He creates some...
He makes gunpowder. Makes little bomb things.
And using the chemistries from Merlin's... chemistry set.
His chemicals and stuff, yeah.
And, of course, at one point, he tries to look over it, and then he was holding it above a candle, and then Ash says, "Don't put the gunpowder near the candle."
Yeah. And it's quite easy. I mean, back in those days, it was simple, because from memory, making gunpowder is only sulphur, charcoal, and saltpeter. That's all it is. And you put together the right amounts, and... boom.
Yes, so with Ash's knowledge of the future, they will probably be able to win. So, anyway, they develop some really good stuff, and he uses his remains of his broken down car and starts making some adjustments to it to make it look...
Didn't you get the motor or something rather than put a big propeller type thing on top there to start chopping up the skeletons?
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. Soon enough, the skeletons arrive. And... Of course, we see they're mostly... It's just like Jason and the Arcanauts, I think it was, the original from years ago. They look like those types of skeletons, if you will. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
I would say so, pretty close to. I think he might have got the idea from there. I don't know yet. Anyway,
they soon arrive and they take their positions, if you will. They start sending in the troops. And as they get closer, they start lighting the arrows. And as they get closer... Ash signals for them to launch the arrows, and soon enough they launch them, and
little bombs start going off later place. That
Yeah.
really surprised the skeletons, yeah.
oh yeah, it would.
Little bone here and a bone there. And
Of
then
course-
the bone's no longer connected to the thigh bone.
Of course,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other troops are starting to go around to different parts of the castle. So they send in those very bigger types of gunpowder ammunition and plumb their resources. It was very hilarious. I liked it when Ash cheers and starts knocking Arthur's shoulder in, like he's like saying, "Yay, we're winning!" stuff like that. But of course, the soon enough they use their battering ramp.
Battering ram,
Yeah, a tree that they kind of carved to look like a stake that to charge at the door. Of course,
Yep.
they do eventually, get in, and they start attacking the soldiers inside. It looks really bad at this point, considering that they're fighting against skeletons with no
Skeletons
hearts
are
and
winning.
no.
Yeah, how do you kill the skeleton? Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at fighting a very, very bad situation. So Ash takes out his most powerful weapon, his car, and starts chomping at the bits of the skeletons. And it looks really impressive at this point. It looks really cruel. Anyway, he then spots his girlfriend, who she kind of sort of appears as herself briefly to distract him.
Yeah.
And that kind of causes his car tumbling and breaking apart.
Yeah,
meaning he
bugger.
just lost his most valuable weapon at this point.
Yeah, the skeleton top rubber. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, he then fights Evil Ash, who's trying to get the book, and eventually he takes a torch and burns him. And we do see, but he doesn't go down and fight. He continues to fight him, and when he gets the book, he's about to take it away and stuff like that. Ash quickly uses his brain and was able to get the book away, and using sort of the leftover gunpowder, flings the creature into the air, and boom! It turned ashes to ashes. Evil Ash is dead.
Ashes, is ashes, whatever. Yeah, ashes
He's
and
no
ashes,
more.
yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah,
Anyway,
whatever,
I should mention. Lord Henry did arrive, and they did fight, and they win. But we think at one point that before I mention it, Ash's girlfriend, is now back to her normal self. She's no longer a Deadite or temporary Deadite. And we then see Henry and Arthur about to have a bit of a scuffle, but then they actually embrace one another.
No, they were standing there looking at each other. They didn't know what to do. Did they go back to the old ways? And I think Ash was standing there and look at both of them, and I think Arthur started to walk towards Henry.
Yeah,
and Henry didn't know what to expect, and he put his hand out to shake his hand.
Yeah,
isn't that lovely?
Yeah, and they then hug each other like brothers and
that
said,
big smile on
and
there.
all of them
let's get a
cheer.
room.
No, not exactly like that.
right.
Like now they're no longer at war with each other because Henry saved them from their kingdom getting destroyed, and they kind of destroyed their common enemy in the end.
And they decided they might join
forces,
kingdoms,
yeah,
whatever.
become a bigger kingdom.
Yeah.
And of course, according to Ash in a flashback, much later on, he tells them that they wanted him to become their king. Of course, Ash wants to go home. Of course, so the wizard prepares sort of a special potion.
A potion, yeah.
That will allow him to go back to the present as long as he says the words Klaatu, Verada, Nikto.
Okay.
So he has to leave.
This time he got it right. So he got home.
He eventually makes his way into the woods, a final farewell to his love interest, and then we cross to the future in the Walmart, where he's telling his colleagues about his weekend, saying, I could have stayed in that old time, and become their king, but I'm here, and therefore this is my life.
And he's really bored and stuff,
and
he doesn't
his friends
believe him,
don't
obviously.
believe him because of, and they even asked him, did you say the words correctly? And he says, yeah, I did. And he has a sure look on his face.
Maybe a bit.
I didn't say everything correctly, all that stuff. But anyway, he then is approached by another girl who's in the present. I don't know her name. Does not matter. And she is flirting with him, and she thought his story was forever cute. But then we hear a wind noise, and then a ground noise, and we see a deadeye in its gruesomest as ever. And Ash pushes his love interest aside, and he takes out a gun from, and we see from one of his hands is the special arm he made in the past, the metal arm
so
that
he has got a bung arm still.
Yeah,
so,
he tells the dead-eyed woman, "I need you to ask you to leave." And she says, "Who are you?" And he says, "My name's Ash. Housewares."
Yeah, and he shoots her head off or something.
Yeah. He then rides over on this cart thing, and then he shoots her several times in wherever. Yeah. And soon enough, she collapses dead. And he remarks in a narration, he says, "I could have stayed in the past, could have been king, but then again, I'm a king in this world." And he's approached by his love interest, new one, and says, "Hail to the king, baby." The end. And then the cut to the credits.
It was fun.
The end in that movie. Sorry, guys. It was a long movie.
And she does draw it out. No.
I just think that those movies were pretty cool. My favourite is the last one because I think the whole medieval being transported into the past is pretty cool. I think the first one's even good too because it's a lot more scarier. I mean, I think the second and the third movie were more dealing with more comedy than horror. I think that's the whole point because Sam was dealing with a lot of court problems because of these movies because these people don't understand that maybe the audiences like them because they enjoyed the movies because. Yeah. All that stuff. There's some silly people out there who just don't know what audiences may like. If you don't like a movie, I suggest turn off your TV or don't watch it.
Go somewhere else. Yeah. Let someone else enjoy it.
Yes. So, I want to talk about reception. Do you have a reception in your notes there, Mike? I would like to find out for myself what the first one was like.
Got reception for the whole trilogy, which you sort of.
Well, I'm not talking about the whole trilogy. Maybe just the first movie. I would like to hear.
Well, okay, not trilogy. It's 4, so breaking 5. Now.
Well, it is. Well, I wouldn't say it was a 5, considering there may be a few installments, but they're not connected.
I know, but it's part of the same.
Because it's
still part of the same.
Of course,
franchise.
they made a TV series called Ash vs. the Evil Dead, which is a continuation of.
And there's a comic book, Freddy versus somebody versus Ash.
Yeah, and then they made that, and they made a 2013 one, which was a remake of that said Evil Dead. And at the end of that one, we do see a cameo of Ash saying, "Groovy." Our famous catchphrase. And of course the new one that's came out that's called Evil Dead Rise, that was released in 2023, obviously, guys. And of course they also made a video game which is based off this too. And there's also a musical I heard, but I'm not going to go into that details. So anyway, go back to reception,
I'm just
Mike.
scanning through it. There's lots of old reviews and new reviews and stuff. Most of the original critiques indicated it was good. It was a bit on the bloody side, a bit on the violent side, but I thought it was ushering in a new style of movie making, and so they're one of the grisliest, well-made movies ever. Yeah, and things like that. So they really liked it when they first came out. The first movie came out, and later on, you had things like Rotten Tomatoes. Came on and got 85%. Who else? There's some other guys. Yeah, look, most of it is very positive from the reviewers because they hit the right mark. I think. I mean, for some of the guys, it was a little bit bloody and. Especially when you got blood spraying all over the place, looked like they opened a swimming pool instead of someone's chest. A little bit overdone, but it was done in good taste and fun. So what do you want?
Yeah.
So everyone sort of liked it.
Yeah.
Now, I can't talk about anything because otherwise I'll go into each movie in particular. So I'm not going to go on production stuff or anything. All I can say is our mate Sam Raimi has done a good job over the movies he's worked on.
Yeah. I think
Storyline's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's amazing that how an independent filmmaker like him started out.
Yeah.
I mean, he started off just with his camera and a bit of a small crew.
He started off doing Super 8 stuff when he was a kid of his mate. When they were at school. And then they did that short before this. And then they used that to help get funding to do this.
Yeah, smart move.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm going to rate it now. That'd be the easiest way to do it. I'm going to rate the whole lot, the franchise, not one by one, but I'm going to give the franchise about a 9. I'll give it a 9 because there's some parts, there's little bits here I didn't like. It could have been done a bit better, especially in the beginning. But obviously he's fine-tuned it in subsequent movies. So, overall I'll say a 9, and that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, over time, I do think both the third and the first one were my favourites because the first one you could see the young, young age. I mean, character coming of age type thing with Ash. Obviously, I think it's all through this movie series that. The coming of age with Ash, obviously. He goes from an ordinary college student who works at Walmart to an action hero and all that stuff.
It can happen to anybody.
And what really interests me is that Bruce, he's actually made a big name for it. He's become the poster boy for Evil Dead.
Yeah.
He's made his mark in other movies here and there, but Evil Dead has kind of made his image.
Exactly. Anyway, so I didn't go and check Amazon and eBay, but as far as I am aware, it's available. You can buy the franchise, you can buy the individuals, you can probably stream it as well. Yeah. So it's out there, and especially with the new movie coming up.
Yeah.
Evil Dead Rising, is it? Yeah, Evil Dead Rising. Yeah. Is that due to come out or is it out?
I think it's already out now, Mike.
Yeah, I think it's out. I haven't had a look on the system at the moment. But that obviously would stimulate the product sales.
Yeah, but despite it being the 6 or how many installments, I'm not sure. I don't think it had. I'm not sure if it's connected back to this particular these movies, the franchise itself, because I don't think so.
We might have a look at it and we might actually review that separately and say, "Hey, blah blah blah, this is good."
It may be another. It's a separate
reality job,
separate remake that does not have a connection to the other remake that came in 2013. I don't think. If it did, it would have had some kind of Evil Dead 2 type thing or something. But if it wasn't. But then again, it's called Evil Dead Rise. So
Evil Dead Rise. Oh yes.
When it was coming out, I thought it was going to be a TV series or even just a streaming movie. I didn't know it was going to go directly to cinema. I thought this doesn't seem like it was going to be a cinematic job. At least
no. Well, point during COVID, a lot of things didn't go to the cinemas. They went straight to streaming sites or whatever because a lot of cinemas weren't open. Now they're open. Everything's back to normal. So why not?
Yeah. It's just that so many popular movies that just continue streaming because either they can't afford theatre rights or distribution.
I don't know what the problem is. I mean, if it's on the internet and you don't know it's there, and people aren't going to see it.
True.
Because I don't see anything advertised for the internet and streaming services. I only see what's advertised local paper at the local theatre. So if you don't know it's out there, you won't know it's there to see. So I'd rather have it still going through the cinemas. Yeah,
I would like that. Anyway, I do think I'll probably look at maybe reviewing it. I'm not going to.
We might. We'll have a look at it. If it's a good movie, then we might.
If it's a good movie, we'll do a review about it. If it's not up to scratch, then we'll still review it, obviously.
Yeah.
If it's not something that should be, overdone. Anyway, I just think. Anyway, I am happy to say that when they did the TV series, of Ash vs. Evil Dead, in the pilot episode, that was actually Sam Raimi who did the first pilot episode. I guess he wanted to be the first one to put his name up for doing the first episode, so they can catch on. The next few directors who direct each episode will follow in his sort of footsteps.
That's right. I mean, it's like Alfred Hitchcock when he made the first Psycho movie. Well, he was dead in between then and the second movie. Whoever took over doing the Psycho movies copied his style quite nicely.
Well, didn't someone, I guess, in the second one worked with Hitchcock when he was probably
but that's still
a bit of a left assistant or
still doesn't mean they're going to do it the same way. It just means they've seen the master at work and to see how he did it. So, but then they kept the same feeling going, which is good.
Exactly. So
anyway, on a kill it.
Yeah, might as well. Guys, be sure to check out the old Evil Deads.
Look, I would suggest you do if it were me, and what we did the other day, we watched them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's really good. It's fun.
Yeah.
But sit down there early at night, say 7 o'clock after dinner, put the kettle on, and watch a few movies.
Yeah, and unlike me, who was saying there might have been a few different changes at the beginning of each movie.
And some of the themes changed just a little bit.
The fact, instead of being a group weekend with his mates and his girlfriend, it was transformed into just a lovers, hangout together.
Yeah, dirty weekend. Yeah,
dirty weekend with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because they wanted it that way. And they changed his girlfriend, I think, about 3 times in the movie.
You just can't keep a girl, Penny.
It could be the fact that maybe the actress may have had another commitment or another project.
Or didn't want to get wrapped up in the program. Yeah, project. Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, it's not important.
Do you want to kill it now?
So, anyway.
It's an hour and 5 minutes now. We're getting a bit long.
So that is Evil Dead. So be sure to check them out. And feel free to check out the new Evil Dead that might be coming out.
Yeah, when it's coming out. I haven't checked yet.
If it's not like these ones, I'm not saying that it's going to be a sequel to these movies. It could be a reboot. It might just be a reboot or a remake. Don't take it to heart. Always.
Oh yeah.
It's always good not to take this to heart because then you won't enjoy the movie. Yeah,
I try and take each one as a standalone, just in case.
It might just be another standalone that does not have any connection to the other installments. So don't take it to heart. So that's it for us, guys. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying, wait, we have to rate them. I forgot.
I did mine.
I
did mine.
Okay, I forgot to rate.
I said 9, and you went waffle.
Yeah, so I'm going to rate mine. So all the franchise, all 3 movies, I'm going to say they're 10 out of 10 for me.
Ooh.
That's how special each one is to me, at least standalone in each one.
A warm place in her heart for Dead.
Okay. Now, that's done for me. So, okay, guys, be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you think of each Evil Dead episode. Or if you don't like the movies, you can always talk about the TV series or the video game or even the musical if it ever comes up in conversation.
Merchandising.
Okay, guys. So thanks for listening to our podcast, everyone. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying see you guys around, and we'll see you on our next podcast on Boys and Ghouls Film Review.
That sounds like a plan.
Oh, yes. So see you guys next time. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.